to be here to present you our research. And first and foremost, we would like to say thank you to all for giving us such a great opportunity that this moment would be one of our best memorable experiences in our lives. So quickly introducing ourselves, and I'm Keita.
Kyohei.
And then we are going to be discussing about people with physical disabilities. And when you hear the disabilities, you may imagine some problems like discrimination, bias, support, education, and many of them. But this presentation is also an introduction to community inclusion, which is not so common in Japan, as a solution. So before we talk about the problems and the solutions, let me ask you some questions. First one, it's an easy one, but have you ever seen people with disability? If you have, please raise your hand. I mean, many of them or most of them. Right? And what about this one? Do you have intimate relationship? Intimate relationship means your friend, family, relatives, neighbors, or whatever. The point is whether or not you build the relationship over the time or not. So if you do, please raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. I mean, this is the problem, we believe. And this is the situation. But this situation, as we believe, is socially made. So let's start with sharing some informations about typical information about the disabled in Japan. There are 3 types of disabilities, and physical, intellectual, and mental disabilities. And all of these are defined as a condition that always has a huge limitation in daily or social life due to their disability or social barrier. And here's some more information. The graph shows the proportion of disabled. The orange part, 7.4%. And before I forgot to mention it, in this presentation, we only focus on the physically disabled. So when we say that disabled, or even we say disabled, that all means we are talking about people with physical disability, like those who are using wheelchairs. So let's go back to the typical informations. This graph, what about the educations? There are 2 options for the disabled. One, going to a normal school, like all of us did, or going to special needs school. Special needs school is a school for those who need special support. And please take a look at this graph. And this graph shows the changes of the number of the special needs school in 50 years. And it starts from less than 200 in 1985, but it has increased dramatically in 30 years and up to almost 900 in 1980 and keep increasing by now. So now you have some information, typical information, so let us talk about why we started of this research.
So now let me tell you about the context of this research. Our starting point is basis assumption of the physically disabled have needs. They want needs to be met. So we initially thought that meeting their needs would probably solve their problems. However, there was a turning point. We met one person and he said, even in the world with many slopes and elevators, I would still be seen as a disabled person. This changed us a lot. And we realized that only material support is not enough for him, which means we need something else, a new survey. And we came up with these new survey ideas. Rather than facility investment, the disabled really want is social support and providing opportunity to interact non-disabled. Let's think about how do we do a new research. We realized that listening to actual facilities and material support is not enough. So we listen to how they think about actual social conditions and interaction. This is going to work. And we came up with these questions. Do you feel separated from the rest of the society? What do you think about the separation between the disabled and non-disabled? And so on. And here's the research method. We interviewed people with physically disabilities, including Ms. C, who is in charge of NPO. And this table shows interviewees. We interviewed 8 people, and the age average is 30s. Interview time is 1.5 hours to 3 hours. We've taken a very innovative research strategies. In Japan, recent study is just a few interviewees, so we interviewed many more, and we had very intensive and in-depth interviews with each of them. And here's the findings. Finding number 1, special needs school make dual socialization. Second, separation between the disabled and the non-disabled is getting worse. Third, society puts them into the disabled. Let me explain each of them one by one. Finding number 1, special needs school make dual socialization. Here's a new term. What is dual socialization? Suppose you have two different societies, and each society has its own way to socialize people. Let me explain more. There are 2 types of schools, special needs school and normal school. And we interviewed to Mr. F. He's at the age of 20s and using wheelchair. And he went to special needs school until he was a high school student. And after that, he decided to enter in normal college. And it was a new world for him because people have different norms and customs. And eventually, he was told by his friend that you don't have social skills. He could not adapt to people from normal school. So from this example, we can clearly see that there is a dual socialization.
Okay, next is second finding. The second finding is separation between the disabled and non-disabled is getting worse. I summarized their story briefly, so let's take a look at first argument. According to Ms. C, in Japan, the number of special needs schools is increasing. She also said the living environment between the disabled and the non-disabled has been separating in recent years. In this way, people in different situations lose the chance to understand each other. Therefore, the disabled cannot be understood forever. Next is Mr. G's argument. So he said it is clear that there is a barrier between the disabled and the non-disabled, and there are some incomprehensible parts. He also said, I think the society pushes the disabled out to the world, so it is inappropriate. Okay, next is last finding. The last finding is society puts them into the disabled. I would like to introduce 3 arguments, so let's start first. According to Mr. A and Z, what we learn about the disabled at Japanese school is not true, because the disabled are depicted only 3 patterns: feel sorry for help, say thanks for it, and working hard to minimize their disabilities. I think these are biased, but Japanese education makes us believe these biases are true. There are many kinds of disabled in the world. Some disabled want to be supported, but others are not. For example, they want to do everything by themselves. Okay, let's take a look at next argument. Next is Mr. B. He said, even in the world with many slopes and elevator, I would still be seen as disabled. He also said, I don't think the facility generates understanding disabled. Okay, here is the last argument. Now, let me tell you about Mr. H's short story. He said, I went to my favorite artist concert with my friends. Although I handed ticket to staff, he explained all information to only my friends. I felt uncomfortable because I was ignored, because I was disabled. Through this example, we can see that we have inappropriate behavior in everyday life. So we have presented 3 problems. Let me repeat again. First, special needs school make dual socialization. Next is separation between the disabled and non-disabled is getting worse. Last problem is society put them into the disabled.
So far, we found us 3 programs from interview, and these are our ideas. So how do we solve these problems and tackle this misunderstanding and discrimination? To solve these problems today, inclusive education is the answer. So what's inclusive education? Inclusive education enables the disabled to study with appropriate support in normal class if they want. However, can inclusive education really solve these problems? Let's look at the problems of inclusive education. First, parents put the disabled child in special needs school without their consent. Second, inclusive education cannot change adult to already finished education. As a result, these 3 programs from interview are left intact, and we think inclusive education cannot solve these problems. So next, let's look at in detail of these points. In problem 1, parents' burden. Parents have to owe burdens if they want to send the child to normal school. In problem 2, inclusive adult education impossible. Inclusive education cannot change adult people who have finished education. So how do we solve these new problems? As a solution, we propose community inclusion. So what's community inclusion? Everyone can enjoy receiving appropriate support and participating in events in local community. So let's look at the examples. For example 1, in Hyogo, special needs school and normal school stand at the same place, and all the students can take any class of each school if they want. For example 2, in Tokyo, interaction between the disabled and the non-disabled. Let's look at in detail exhibition of the disabled works and introduction of Paralympics. I summarize the effect of community inclusion. First, cooperation among these organizations that reduce parents' burden. And second, community create events that include the disabled and the non-disabled, that increase contact. Altogether, they contribute to solve this new problem 1 and new problem 2. And we think solving 2 new programs will contribute solving 3 problems from the interview.
Okay, quickly to sum up, we've been discussing about the physically disabled. But our ideas, there are 2: social support and interaction. And based on these ideas, we did many interviews, and we found 3 main problems. Number 1, dual socialization. Number 2, the separation is getting worse. And number 3, society put people into the disabled. So to address these problems, as a solution today, we introduced you a inclusive education, but this is kind of failed. So as a proposal, we introduced you a community inclusion, welcoming more the disabled people into our society so that we can interact with each other. So you know the problems, and now you know the solutions. So what are you waiting for? Let's make an action to make a better world for both of us. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, let's go in to comments and questions. Please.
Okay, sorry. Actually, I asked you. So, yeah, it's very interesting. So I have the kind of question and comments. So first question is related to the, what kind of actually disabled persons did you interview with? So I think that I'm, working on issues of inequality and social stratification from the, occupational structural perspectives. So I think that the disabled persons may have the great difficulties in getting a job, also getting a decent work. So I think, age range is very great. So therefore, those disabled persons are adults, actually finish their full-time education. So therefore, what kind of jobs did those persons, also what kind of difficulties they have in their workplaces if they work?
As we interviewed, actually only a few of us go to some interviews and a few are not. So I actually participated in the where is it? I forgot where he is, but he has a some disabilities under his shoulder, actually, his shoulder.
Okay.
But he needs a help for what I mean in daily life. It's like your question. What was your question?
Yeah. My question is about related to the job. So
the job.
Job. Yeah.
Job. Actually, he was a college student from university, and he was actually, I think he already got his job. I mean the promises job. So, yeah. But,
also the actually what kind of difficulties they had in workplaces. So if you hear about those stories from interviewees.
Into university, there is volunteers for the note taking. It's like he can't write that himself anything. So
yeah, workplace, not school.
Not school,
but workplaces.
Anybody?
So our interviewee, one of our interviewee, sorry, deaf.
He couldn't hear about anything. Actually, couldn't look.
So, Miss C work as NPO, responsible for NPO.
Okay, working for NPO.
Working for NPO, and she goes to around Japan and talking about her experience and her sad story and her opinion and so on. Do you understand?
I see. Okay, so therefore,
do you have any person you interviewed who are currently working in companies?
Yeah.
interviewees,
Mm.
I think we couldn't get the
Mm.
information about the
Mm.
job that
I see.
the person who
Yeah.
are working
Yeah.
someplace.
Yeah.
But some people working at NPO
Mm.
and I think
Mm.
we don't have that.
Mm. Okay, enough minutes. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, go to the next questions, comments.
Okay. I would like to ask about the concept of dual socialization. If my understanding is correct, dual socialization, by the concept you mean that there are two kinds of socialization. One is in the normal school, the other is in the special needs school. And could you please explain more concretely what's the difference between those socialization? Concrete example.
For example, what Mr. F said is that he took education from special needs school and he doesn't know about how to communicate people like going to normal school. So it's really hard to like communicate. What was the question again? Sorry.
In detail, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally,
that's,
yes, yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are not clear about how you define this term actually, the term of the dual socialization.
Yeah. How different between schools?
Actually, Mr. F didn't talk about much details
Mm.
about the why he told you don't have a social skill by a friend.
Mm.
But I mean we don't have any more details about it. But yeah, as she said, there are different common senses or like the customs they like how they behave are completely different.
Oh,
so
I see.
so, that's I think.
I can take one more question, comments. Please.
I'm interested. Thank you for wonderful presentation. And I'm interested in Hyogo's education policy. Children can choose the class. So I want to know how change the children's mind to disabled people. How change?
In Hyogo system.
Yes.
In this college, I mean high school in Hyogo, it was there were like special. It's not as special, but it's very considerate education system to each one of student. So for example, one student didn't like the lightness. Says I don't know so for those who didn't like the light, the teacher addressed him by not turning off the light, but using much more lighter pens or like a clear images in class, and then maybe this like the examples, maybe the students thought or feel they are considered. So that makes the students to take any other classes, I think.
Maybe my English is bad. I want to question how children's mind change. change so through the mixed class.
Oh, okay,
So-
okay. Now I understand. Now I understand.
Maybe shouldn't choose the shouldn't take class with disabled
Yeah.
people. So how students' mind change so students can understand disabled person.
In Hyogo school, they do class of
Physical education class.
physical class with disabled and non-disabled with so so they make a friendship each other. So the disabled think that I want to take a same class with disabled non-disabled. You know, do you understand?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that it's time for us to finish that. All right. The third presentation. Let's go to the